Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Thlologelo from Rampa and this is Relocate to Australia with Promise. Guys, this is still your #1 DIY relocation platform. So if you were looking for information on how you can relocate to Australia, you are at the right place at the right time. So please do not forget to like, comment and subscribe for more content on how you guys can relocate to Australia. So just a little bit of a background for those of you who would be new and who would not know by now. We are a family that relocated from South Africa in 2019. We have been living in Australia for 4 years. Well, for me, it's 3 years, but for the rest of the people, it's 4 years. We actually celebrated 4 years of being in Australia on the 20th. Yes, was it the 20th? Yes, on the 20th of January. So we actually now qualify to be citizens in Australia. It is insane. Time passed so quick. It is insane. So me and my husband are going to obviously be going into a discussion on, becoming citizens here in Australia. We're quite excited about it, but that's something for another day. For today, we are going to be looking at other stuff that is going to help you guys to also relocate to Australia, to also go on the same journey we did and make it in this country. So to be honest with you guys, when we started this relocation journey, we never even thought that we would make it this far. It was a far-fetched dream. When we were back in South Africa and we were looking at people that had actually migrated, we wondered, how did these people do this? Like, would we would we be able? Is it right? Is it something that we can do? Is it achievable? There were so many things that were discouraging along the way. It was a very rough journey, but we made it, you guys. We are here. We are in Australia. We are thriving. We're doing great. Migrating has been a huge part of our growth. I speak for myself and also for my husband. We've grown so much in this country and we got to see life, in a different light. We got to see how people live differently. It really took us out of what we were used to, just being Africans, being in Africa, being in South Africa, to being in a first world country and seeing how people are actually doing it here and not just watching it on the news, but getting first-hand experience. And this is also kind of broaden what we want in life. We want to travel more now. We want to experience other people's cultures. We want to go to more countries to see how they do it. I don't think we will relocate there because we love it here. We are settled. We love it here. But just, I think where we are right now in life, we would be able to, travel to other countries and actually get to experience that. But anyway, you guys, I do not want to go into that. But yeah, I really do want to highlight that it has been 4 years of us being in Australia. So according to the requirements to become a citizen in Australia, we are at that mark. We can actually now apply to become Australian citizens. We will still keep our citizenship in South Africa. I believe we will look into doing dual citizenship because we're still South Africans at the end of the day. But yeah, it wouldn't hurt being, both South African and Australian. We'd call ourselves African Australian. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, really exciting times. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get down to today's business, you guys. I didn't want to talk about that. It just came randomly. But I think also, you guys, the reason why I think this current event, us now being able to qualify to be citizens in Australia, the thing that I also want to highlight, it doesn't mean that now we qualify to be Australian citizens. It's something that we're going to jump at or something that we're going to immediately do. There are some people who are still on permanent residency visas who have been on them for 10, 20 years and have not given up their citizenship to now, be Australian citizens for various reasons. Some people are just like, I don't have to do that. There are some people who have legit reasons why they don't want to do that. As I said, it is a discussion that me and my husband are obviously going to be going into. We haven't really spoken about it because leading towards this, we would be like, would we do it? Yeah, sure, we're going to do it. And now we are there and we're like, we'll see. So yeah, but it's very exciting. I think it's a very huge thing for us. I think it's a very huge thing for us because obviously we need to make life-changing decisions if we do decide to be Australian citizens. And obviously it wouldn't hurt being Australian citizens. We have to think for our children's future. We obviously want to be here for a very long time. So if we do this, it will impact on them as well. So we need to weigh the pros and cons for all of that. But yeah, being an Australian citizen, the only difference is when you move from your permanent residency visa to now being a citizen, you'll now have an Australian passport. And you can also now vote. Well, you have to vote in Australia. You have to vote. You don't just not vote. They will fine you. So it's one of the things that you consider, or okay, do I want to do this? And as I said, also having to decide, do we do dual citizenship or not? But anyway, you guys, I think because of this period and us being here, I kind of went back, I started reflecting on, oh my goodness, where did this all begin for us? And obviously, it started here. Okay, it started with employment, you guys. It started with employment, and this is why I wanted to have this discussion with you guys. Funny enough, this was not a discussion I was going to have 2 weeks ago when I had done my preps for this channel. I was going to be talking about something totally different, but within this 2 weeks of me not recording, so many things have been happening in my life, you guys. My life is going into a shift. It's a movie, it's a drama, but I like the dots are kind of like, connecting for something bigger. But because now we are on that puzzle phase where we're trying to find all the pieces to put together, it is a whole mess, honey boo boo. But it's gonna come all right. What I want to highlight is that within this 2 weeks of me not recording, as I said, I had plans to talk about something different. But within that period, something was like, start talking about employment promise. The reason why employment is such a huge element for migration, it's because a lot of these countries need skilled migrants. I think I have been speaking about this in most of my videos on my channel. What is central in migration are the skills and the knowledge that you have, your contribution to another country. Literally, a country will not want you to come in and just chill, use their benefits, be on taxpayers' payroll, and then you are just chilling, not doing anything. They don't want any of that. They will want a person who's going to be coming into their country to be beneficial to their economy. So employment is a huge part of migration. So when I sat down having a brainstorm session with myself about this video today, I thought about it. I was like, okay, fine. There are two main ways to migrate to whichever country. Let's just stick to Australia for now. So let's say, for example, you want to relocate, you want to come to Australia. There are two main ways. The two main biggest ways, because there are other ways you can come in, but the two main ones is through employment and through the study visa. Okay, about a week ago, me and my husband were having a bit of a discussion about people who would then be coming into the country as students, and we found that there's a very large numbers of those students who would then leave Australia after they finish studying. Because in my head I was thinking, well, if you're coming to Australia to study, maybe you want to stay here and work here. But what we found was that there are some people who are like, okay, there are some people who are like, let's say, for example, living in America, where it would be sometimes very expensive for them to study. They can choose to come to countries like your Australia, which is very good with their higher educational system, and it would be more affordable for them because they would be looking at things such as being able to balance everything. You're able to study and work at the same time to pay your fees and your living expenses here in Australia. It means that it might be cheaper for you to actually study here. And then after they finish studying, they're like, well, we don't like working in Australia, or maybe the pay here is not as, is not as good as in the US or in Canada or in India or wherever. So they would then just study and leave. So you find that Australia is enrolling a lot of students who are immigrants, but they are also losing a lot of those students once they are done and they have graduated. They leave to go to other countries. So obviously, if they were then bringing in students into the country to try and train them and get them to a level where they would be able to, fill in the job demands here in Australia, to fill in the labor demands here in Australia, they're still now also having another issue where they are now losing students who are leaving. They're obviously trying to mitigate all of that by introducing visas that would be able to accommodate people who are, fresh out of uni and are immigrants. But I don't think they've found the balance yet, because there are people who are still leaving. So now this opens a gap for what? Immigration through employment. As I said, there are some people whose main aim of coming into Australia as immigrants, student immigrants, they just want to study and leave. But there are some who are like, okay, I'm coming in because I want to study, be trained in an Australian institution in order for me to now get Australian jobs. So it is different for everybody. You really need to know what you're aiming at, what your focus is, in order for you to keep on course and continue on the journey, because it always begins somewhere for all of us. We all do not start the same way. There are some people who will be coming into Australia with zero qualifications, they don't have nothing. They're just coming in fresh from wherever, just immediately after high school, and they're coming in. There are some who are like, I'm leaving this career, I'm gonna start a new one in Australia, start a new course in Australia, and then they go that way. There are some who come into Australia qualified with the work experience and all of that, but they are unable to get jobs because there are some issues with their qualifications. Maybe they cannot get accreditation for them. So what they would do, they would take up maybe a year or two of studies this side to kind of enhance their degree in order to be able to fulfill a role in Australia. And there are also some who can come into Australia on permanent residency visas, so they would not then be employed at that time. They would have been able to secure a permanent residency visa without employment. It would be independent at that time. My advice, obviously, for people who are on permanent residency visas but have not yet secured jobs, my advice is, guys, please try and look for a job before you come into Australia, because it is expensive here. When you're going to be converting the rand to the dollar, you're literally going to want to pack your bags and go back to Africa, because you will be now running through the money like nobody's business. Everything is 10 times the price that you are used to back home. Unless you are a millionaire and you've got money and you are good in the pockets, then you can come spend a couple of months until you get a job. Well, it will not necessarily be a couple of months, depending on the industry that you're in. It's quite easy to get employment here in Australia because they are always looking for people who are skilled and who've got the qualifications, who've got their work experience and all of that. It is quite easy getting employment here in Australia, but you never know if luck is not on your side, eh? And there are some people who are also choosing to say, I don't want to live here, I don't want to work here, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. So if that is going to be your situation, it will be harder for you to get employment. And there's some industries where if you're living in the city, you can't get jobs. If you're living in a regional area, a certain regional area, you can't get jobs in that field of study. So there are a lot of things that, you know, might need you to adjust in the beginning, especially if you're on a permanent residency visa. The other thing is, obviously, when you're coming in, you need to pick a place where you're going to live. Let's say, for example, you came on a PR visa for Queensland, and you have to choose where you're going to live in Queensland. So maybe you're gonna come and then live in Brisbane for 2 weeks. For that 2 weeks, you are looking for jobs in Brisbane. There is nothing. Now what do you have to do? You have to look outside. So you now start looking outside for employment, and then you get something somewhere. You're going to have to now move to that place and decide to move to that place. It is costly, it is time consuming, it is stressful, you're still trying to adjust. I feel like it's going to make your relocation experience horrible because there's just too much adjusting to do. Plus also you're looking at your pockets. Now you don't want to be running through your savings. Sometimes there are people who are going to be coming here on a PR visa and you do not have the money to sustain you for months. You do not have the money to sustain you for months when you're still trying to figure out where to live and where to get a job. That is one of the main reasons why when you are applying for a PR visa, they will ask you, how much do you have in savings? Where Australia will want to see the money that you have. It is because they know when you come here, they don't want you, obviously when you're in a PR, you're going to get Medicare, you can be on Centrelink. They don't want you to come here and then say, oh, well, I'm now in Australia, I can't find a job, and now you go on the dole, and now you're on government benefits as an immigrant. They don't want that to happen. They do not want that to happen. They want you to come in, settle, find a job, contribute to the economy. That's what they want from you. So if you're on a PR visa, an independent PR visa, my advice is do not rush to coming into Australia. Find a job first. Do your research about the place where you would have then found a job. See if that's where you would want to settle. And there's no harm in you coming into Australia knowing where you're going to be working and where you're going to be living. It gives you time to settle, time to find your feet, time to ground yourself. You know, at least you've got employment, at least there's direction. So it is better to come in when you've got employment. For people who would then not be on the PR visa, but are now looking for more skilled visas, like for example your TSS visa, your employment visas, then obviously you need to find a job before you come into Australia. So that is where it all began with me and my husband. Just a bit of a background. My husband is a veterinarian. I always get this tongue twist when I do this. But my husband is a vet. He's an animal doctor, and I am a social worker, for those of you who do not know. And these qualifications are very highly sought here in Australia. We really did not know this at all. We were not aware of this information. I really do credit and thank a very good friend of ours, the Sibandas. They are the ones who told us about Australia and told us that, you know what, you're a social worker, your husband is a vet, and you are still sitting in South Africa. Amen. So they're the ones who encouraged us to come to Australia. Obviously, you don't have to be only a vet or a social worker to come to Australia. There are many skills and qualifications that can get you into Australia. And if you want to find out if your skills and your qualifications and your work experience can get you into Australia, you need to go to the www.homeaffairs.gov.au website, which is the Australian immigration website, where you will be getting all the information that you will need on migrating to Australia, all the visa options. Everything is there. Literally everything is there. As I always say in all of my videos, you do not need to get an agent or a migration agent or a migration lawyer for you to do this. You can literally do this whole process yourself, unless your situation is tricky and you feel like you need advice from somebody professional. Literally, the thing that they will do for you, they will just go on the website, read the information that is available to you, and come back to give you that information and make you pay for it. So basically, they are making you pay for just reading the information. Something you can do yourself. So just cut cost, try and do your research, make sure that you're well clued up and you know what you're getting yourself into. Read the information that is on the website. And so as I said, my husband is a vet, I'm a social worker, but those are not the only two skills and qualifications that they want here in Australia. There are many others, tons and tons of them. So go on the occupation list, the skilled occupation list on the Home Affairs website. It's just gonna pop up now so that you guys can see an example of what it looks like and how you can get to it. I'll also be leaving a link down below on the description in order for you guys to, get a direct link to how you can get to the immigration website and also the skilled occupation list. One thing that the Home Affairs website will not do for you, it will not help you look for employment. It will not help you secure employment. But once you have secured employment outside of that website, you can always come back into that website to tell them, now I got a job, give me a visa. That is how it works. So as I said, you guys, that's where me and my husband started. That is where it all began for us. My husband got a job. He then got a TSS visa. It is an employee-sponsored visa. If you do not know about this visa, there will be a pop-up just now to direct you to the videos that I have done about this TSS visa. Be clued up on it, because as good as it sounds, it also has its cons. So the visa comes with the good and the bad. So you need to know what you're getting yourself into in order to make informed decisions. So yes, you guys, employment is one of the main ways you can get into Australia. I know a lot of people are then wondering, if employment is so huge here in Australia, does it mean that, people here in Australia are not working? Does it mean that they don't have skilled people? One thing that I have found is that Australia is a very big country. It is huge. It's a continent. It's a whole continent, right? And they are struggling with population. They don't have the population size to meet the demands of their country, to grow it to what they want it to be. And the other thing that I realized is because of, some of the legislation they have and some of the decisions they make as a country, and because also it's a first world country, there are some citizens who do not see the need to study. There's the good and the bad that comes with it. The good thing is that, where we come from in Africa, we are told you need to get into a profession. It is your way out of poverty. You need to study. You need to have some paper in your hand in order for you to get out of poverty. And obviously what we have seen, it's not always true, because I was one of those people in South Africa who had a qualification. I had my master's degree in social work and I was unemployed because there were no jobs in South Africa. So coming from a place like that, where it is a must for you to have qualifications, it is a must for you. It is something that is spoken about. It is something that is very much spoken about in your upbringing, in your homes, in the community, in the society. You need to get qualifications for you to make it out. When you come this side, you don't need to. You are well taken care of here. You can leave school at grade 10, start an apprenticeship. Literally, you leave school at grade 10, which is like standard 8, grade 10, your normal grade 10, and then you go into an apprenticeship where you can then start working from the age of 16. Children here in Australia can start working from, I think, the age of 14 legally. So they can start employment at the age of 14 and then grow into whatever career they want. What I've also found is that people kind of pace themselves into a career. What they would then do is immediately after school, they will not go straight to uni. They'll do other jobs to see what is it that I like. And then once they have figured it out, they then go study. So they will start studying later on in life around 25 years of age, 30, sometimes even in their 40s. That's when they will then consider higher education. For us in Africa, where we come from, the minute you're done with grade 12, you need to get into something. You need to get that acceptance letter from university, and it doesn't matter if this is the career you want. Sometimes you even go into careers without knowing what that career is all about. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why we are so depressed and so unfulfilled. It's because we are going into careers that, are not for us. We are going into them because we were told if you go into teaching, there's no way you will not find a job. If you go into medicine, there's no way you will be without a job. But, well, in Africa, you will be without a job even if you are a doctor. It's insane. But yeah, that's that. The good news, my fellow Africans, is that with your qualifications, you can migrate somewhere else where they will value your qualifications. And if it does happen along the way where you realize that, actually, I don't want to be a medical doctor, you will be in a country that will allow you to have a switch. And for you to then find something that will be purpose driven, for something that will be your calling, something that you want to do and feel good doing. And I think that is one of the things that I like about Australia. It allows you the flexibility to shift around and move around career-wise. It is always great. So as an immigrant, you can come in with whatever skills and your qualifications and your knowledge and your experience. And then once you get here and it dawns to you that actually this was not a career that I wanted, this is something that was wanted by my mom or my dad or the society, then it allows you the opportunity and the environment to explore other careers. That's the one thing that I love about this country. Anyways, you guys, that's just a bit on employment here in Australia. I did not want to be too long. I'm going to be discussing employment more deeper, so I'm going to be going back to the skills assessment with you guys next week so that we can start there. I want us to go deeper, Papa. I'm joking. I want us to go deeper into the skills assessment so that we can do it step by step, because what I've been finding is people asking questions about the skills assessment even though I have had conversations about the skills assessment. So I'm going to be doing one video. So I'm going to be doing a video where we go into it together. You guys can then see, because as I said, the skills assessment is where it all begins for people who want employment and who want to relocate to Australia through the employment stream, through employment visas. That is where it will begin. So we will be doing computer-based work for us to get into the computer and see what is there. And then once we move from that, we're going to be looking at how to apply for jobs here. And then we'll be looking at how to then do your CVs, your interviews, and how to prepare for them. Basically kind of walking you through the steps of how you can get employment in Australia. And then once we're done with that, we can move on to other things. So that's what's going to be coming up. I also want to work on having more one-on-one interactions with you guys. But as I said, my life is going into a shift. My life is going in a different direction. Once all of this has settled and I know exactly what is going on and what I'm going to be doing, then I'm going to invite you guys into that space. I will see you again in my next upload in the next 2 weeks. If I have time, I'm going to do it next week, but I will see you again in my next upload. Take care. Let relocation be your goal this year. We can do it. We are going to do it. Let's relocate to Australia with promise. Love you guys.